I will go ahead and get started. Thanks again for joining us. My name is Courtney Thabet. I am the Senior Project Manager over at Accelerant Research. I've been doing research either academic or professionally in the industry for almost 20 years, which makes me feel old. I also want to thank Accelerant and Bill just for giving me this opportunity, and for my colleagues Maureen and Sierra for helping me out on this. So to get started, table of contents. It's a little long, but we'll get through it. So when we think about pricing research, I immediately go back to my marketing professor days, thinking about price, because it's one of the strongest, it has some of the strongest impact on demand and profits of the 4 Ps in marketing: price, product, placement, and promotion. It is the only one that is easy to change relatively and can be done quickly, and where you can get nearly immediate consumer reactions to that change. But when looking out at corporations and out in the business world, lots of companies don't really consider a consumer's willingness to purchase. A lot of times pricing decisions are based on the cost of the product, or maybe with competitive pricing in mind as well. But really using all 3 is very important. So when we think of pricing analysis, I think of the gold standard as being conjoint analysis. Conjoint is, I think, considered the gold standard throughout the industry. It was designed to simulate the actual process and the trade-off decisions that consumers go through when making a decision in the real world, as much as we can simulate it in a survey. And just in case you don't know, a conjoint is where a person answers in a survey. They're presented with a bunch of different options in different groupings, and asked to choose which grouping they would buy. So say it's on cell phones. You're going to include price, obviously, since we're doing a pricing analysis, but you might include physical size, how big or small it is, the camera specs as different features and attributes, and the memory size, grouped into different choices and offerings. And then respondents go through a series of questions looking at those groupings and choosing which one they're most likely to buy. So in that trade-off, it reveals the most preferred features for the consumer, and their willingness to purchase with those features. However, conjoint, while it's popular, isn't always the best choice. There are times where other pricing analyses are more appropriate. I came up with 7 reasons. You may have more, but here are 7 reasons conjoint sometimes isn't the best pricing analysis. 1, it's just not feasible for the client. It could be due to cost. Conjoint analysis is generally much more expensive. It could be for a lack of understanding, either the main client themselves, or a difficulty in socializing it throughout the corporation. If it needs to go to salespeople, or it's going to go, some information is going to go to their customers, whatever it may be. They just may want something easier. 2, the attributes are not defined. So it may be that the client is too early in the product development process, and doesn't know what features or attributes are important to consumers. There's a lot of features, they just don't know which ones are important, or what options would be available for what features, what colors are actually available, that kind of thing. So they don't know enough yet. The 3rd reason is that the attributes are too complex. You could have a ton of important features. Think of me when I'm choosing, when I chose to buy my house. And you could leave some of those features out, but you may leave out relevant ones. And there is a limit to how many groupings and how many actual questions you want to show a respondent in a conjoint analysis. 4, on the opposite end of the spectrum, the attributes are too limited. The product is too simple. You may only have 1 to 2 options of 1 to 2 features. maybe in something like commodities, where nothing but price is really of importance to the consumer. Number 5, the attributes can't be changed. So for instance, the product is already made. There's really not budget to change any of the features based on the results. So there's really not a lot of point in looking at attributes in relation to price. 6, the attributes are intangible. For some products, consumers evaluate them based on intangible features. A lot of times where emotions drive more than rational thought. I think of things like luxury products, or products that have a very strong brand image where consumers are actually purchasing that name, that brand. And then number 7, if the client doesn't have any idea what the price should be, they have a product where, based on cost, they could sell it for $10, but it could be such a product that they could earn profit at $10, but it could be such a product that they really, consumers are willing to pay $100, and enough consumers, would be more of a profit. So if they don't have an idea on that, because there's no competitors out there with similar products, they don't have an idea of their target market, they have no clue of price. Okay, so when conjoint is not appropriate, here at Accelerant Research, we like our Van Westendorp, hence Van Westie is my bestie. Just kind of an overview on Van Westendorp. It is named after its creator, Dutch economist Peter Van Westendorp. It's also called the Van Westendorp pricing meter or the Van Westendorp pricing analysis. It's frequently used in pricing research by research firms. It is specifically focused on finding an acceptable price as an indicator of quality and of value of the product. It is a survey-based technique, used to find a range of acceptable prices. So when we do a Van Westendorp, we concentrate on that range of prices. Specifically, in a Van Westendorp survey, respondents are asked to enter specific price points for 4 questions. We have what price is so cheap that you question the quality of the product. That would be what we call too cheap. And when we get to actually doing the analysis, it's inverted. The cumulative of it is inverted to get our price curves. There is what is a low price, but still a good value. That's what we call bargain. A lot of times you'll see it called cheap or not cheap and things like that. That is a cumulative. Over to the right, you can see the price curves table. The third question is, what is a price that is expensive, but it's worth paying that price? The quality is such, the value is such that it's actually worth it. And that's our not expensive. And again, we invert that on a cumulative for the graph of the price curves. And then what is a price so expensive that you wouldn't buy this product? And that is our too expensive column there. Again, a cumulative. From this information, we graph the price curves that you see there. After we've done the cumulatives and grouped them and all that, done the analysis, and we're looking for an optimal price point and the acceptable price range to determine that. Okay. We have some best practices that we do when we are doing a Van Westendorp for a client. After I go through the best practices, I'm going to go through an actual example of research we actually did, not for a client, just for this. So you can see kind of these best practices in an actual presentation. So our first one is to provide lots of product information. Before the respondents are asked a price, we show a concept, or we show multiple concepts, competitor concepts, or a monadic design of concepts. But we provide a lot of product information so the consumers have a sense of what the product is worth. If they don't have that product information, they're not going to be able to enter, what we would consider a realistic price. So we provide them with enough product information. It's kind of a Goldilocks thing. You want to provide them with enough information for, an estimate, but you don't want to go too far and provide too much information because, as we all know, respondents will skip and skim and all that. So that's judgment there. Number two, do not use Van Westendorp as a standalone analysis. We put a lot of caveats in our actual presentation in regards to this. We like to use Van Westendorp in conjunction with additional pricing analysis. We use a willingness to purchase using different given price points, which you'll see in the presentation to come or in the report to come. Number three, validate the responses. Depending on your software, you can do this in real time or do it after while you're cleaning. You just want to be sure that too expensive is greater than not expensive, is greater than bargain, is greater than too cheap. Despite putting instructions, as we all know, instructions aren't always followed. So we eliminate those. Number four, we make or have made an Excel workbook where we can copy and paste the actual answers, the data, into that, and we have formulas in there for analysis that are done automatically. So our our grouping and our inverting and accumulation of percentages and graphing into Van Westendorp are very much a plug and play kind of situation in that spreadsheet. So we don't have to do the same work over and over again. Number five, we're starting here like with client communication. So some of our best practices are how we communicate with our client. We provide a lot of explanation of the analyses, of the terms in those analyses, because the clients are often lay people when it comes to research or pricing research. So we provide detailed explanations in our methodology section so that the client at any point can reference those. Number six, we provide a summary of analyses. So in our key findings, where we summarize all the findings of the research, because of course we're asking evaluative questions as well, we also include a summary slide with data from the pricing analyses in a very visual form, so that clients have a big picture overview, yay or nay, of what the pricing analyses showed. Number seven, and this goes for all research, right? Customize the report for each client. The client's level of knowledge, level of understanding can differ as far as research goes and pricing analyses. It may be deep, maybe non-existent, or they may, need to socialize the results. We had a client that had trouble with the optimal price points in regards to socializing the results with their sales team. They didn't want the sales team to focus on, or their customers for that matter, the sales team was talking to focus on that OPP, on the optimal price point. So we removed it and we just focused on that range of acceptable prices. We've had clients that are confused by the willingness to purchase analysis. Looking at that graph, where we were kind of using it to, make sure everything in the Van Westendorp looks okay. We want those two to be consistent. Sometimes they get wrapped up because there's exact prices in it. So just depending on the client, we like to customize the report, and going along with that, we want to use visualizations that are suitable for the audience. We created for one of our clients, and it's standard now in all of our reports, an additional graph. So in addition to the traditional Van Westendorp curve, we added in a visualization that to us and to our clients is more understandable of the pricing analyses, which you'll see. So our actual example of Van Westendorp. Oh, and as we go through this, if you have questions, please put them in the chat and Q&A, and I'll answer them at the end if we have time. Okay. So we start obviously our report with a methodology section. So this is the methodology used for this specific analysis. I made up a product and it's, it is an actual product on the market. It's relatively new. I did not use that name. If It is for making cocktails. The methodology was just a 10-minute survey, nice and short. We didn't want any fatigue or anything like that. We surveyed 501 US consumers. And going to that validation point, well, we looked at 501 in the evaluative criteria. When we got to the pricing analysis, 8 of those didn't meet the validation. So they're removed from the pricing analysis. Kind of did that on purpose, just to emphasize that validation point. This is in our best practices when I talked about including all the terms and information for the methodologies. We have 2 slides. We have the methodology of the Van Westendorp going into detail, what questions we ask, how we estimate the optimal price point, what the acceptable price range is. We also do an additional kind of look at what we call the desired expensive but worth it price. And that's just a norm we created to analyze the medium to expensive price. We want to see, we would like to see that desired expensive but worth it be below that too expensive price and be within that range, and things like that. And then we also look at the medians of all the analyses. And then on our willingness to purchase, again, we have our caveats. Obviously, WTP, as we all know, is very often, usually, overstated by respondents in a survey. So we do, tell the clients this is not, yes, we're giving a price, but it's all about relative values and not those actual numbers. So the concept itself, like I said, this concept is based on a newer product out in the market. It was introduced in 2019. Typically in this situation, our client provides the concept or concepts. We don't actually make them. You can present the content. We present the concept to respondents. We do not give a price. We have open-ended price questions for the Van Westendorp, and we do not want to bias or have them have a reference price in their head most of the time. Again, you can do a single concept like I did here, very simple. You can look at it against competition. You can do multiple concepts in a monadic design, whatever is best for the client. And then after the concept is viewed, we ask a series of evaluative questions. So for this one, looking at the key findings. Again, this was a short and sweet survey. So this is a short and sweet key findings. One of the things we asked was, we wanted consumers to actually enjoy, someone in their household actually drink cocktails to take the survey. We found that 1/3 of consumers drink 1 to 2 cocktails per week. Another third drinks 3 to 6 cocktails per week. 9% drink cocktails every day, and 1/4 drink less than 1 cocktail in any given week. I don't know where you fall. I know where I fall. I'm in the 1/4. That's just because cocktails are not my drink of choice. 53% of consumers said, so when they actually viewed the concept before they had any price and without bias, 53% said that, hey, we are extremely likely to purchase this. But once we gave them a price in our willingness to purchase analysis, it decreased to 13%. So that's a 75% decrease. The price we gave is the actual price of the real product on the market. So I didn't just come up with it. 80% of consumers said that the concept was much or somewhat better than anything comparable on the market. We had a lot of consumers, compare it in their mind to the Keurig, which is, or what's the soda maker, Soda Stream, something like that. So we had some open ends in there that they did that relation in their head. And then 73% of respondents agreed that the concept was personally relevant to them. Obviously, this probably makes, this is why we asked the cocktail question, and it makes intuitive sense. Those who drink less than 3 cocktails per week rated the product significantly lower on all of those measures compared to those who enjoy cocktails more frequently. So we'll look at that data in detail in just a second. From the best practices, This is when I said we do a summary of the pricing analysis and the key findings. This is generally what we do. What's on the left-hand side may change based on the client and what they want to know. And obviously across the top would change based on the cuts that we do. Here, the pricing analyses indicated that neither the total population or any number of drinks, those who drink fewer or more cocktails, are receptive to that testing price of $369.99. That testing price was actually much higher for any of the optimal price points for any of those three groups found in the study. Those who drank 3+ cocktails per week versus those who drink less than 3 cocktails were willing to pay more for the concept, but neither one was even close to the test price. So looking at the detailed findings, how often cocktails are enjoyed, we already went through, but looking at the 3 evaluative questions that we asked after the concept was viewed, you can see likelihood to purchase before the price was 53 total, 64% for 3 or more cocktails, 45% for less than 3 cocktails. Again, 3+ is significantly higher than less than 3 cocktails a week for all 3, which again, intuitively makes sense. Okay. And then for the good stuff, the pricing analyses. Okay. I'm going to go through the total sample, then I'm going to go through the cut of cocktails per week. So we include another pricing summary for both of the analysis at the front of this. Generally, when I'm presenting to the consumer or to the client, I kind of skip over this one. It's more probably for socialization purposes or if they just need to see something really quick. And I just go through the detailed because all of this information is in the next couple of slides. So the willingness to purchase analysis that we do, we look at different price points. We start with the test price, and depending on their answer, whether they answer yes or no, we ask them, you know, would you pay this as an increase or would you pay this as a decrease? 13% of the total sample said that they'd be willing to purchase. When the price increased by 5% to $388.49, it resulted in a 6% percentage point decline of willingness to purchase, and that's a 45% decrease. You can see that it's quite a steep decrease, and it drops off very, very fast, which is not, you know, obviously saying, whoa, price is way too high. Looking at the Van Westendorp, this is the traditional graph. We do always show this for the main client, how they socialize it may be different. They may use the other one. But looking at this, you can see on the left, we include the medians table, and using the information that they gave us, looking at the median answer for low but still a good value was $70. The median value for the price is so cheap, I don't think the quality is that good, is $35. The median expensive but worth it is 119, where, yeah, it's expensive, but okay, worth it at that price, which is vastly lower than our 10% increase in price. And then so expensive would not buy was the median was 161. So in the traditional graph, we show the estimated range of acceptable prices up there. And then we show, you know, the optimal price point there, which in this case was $95 for total. Okay. The additional graph that we like to use is this. It shows, I think, because it shows all the medians as well as the optimal price point and all that. Our clients seem to have found it more understandable, just overall. You can see that the arrows, the arrow represents that acceptable range of prices. Each tick mark, the in between is $10. So we always even it out. In this case, the price was so high, I kind of had to put an ellipsis in there because the last tick mark before the ellipsis is 170, and then the first tick mark after the ellipsis is 370. So that's accounting for about $200 there. And you can easily see the optimal price point and the difference between what we tested, that visual, there's a great distance there, which for me, visually, graphically, it's much easier to intuit than the traditional. Okay, and then looking at the pricing analysis for number of cocktails per week, intuitively, you drink more, you're going to be willing to pay more. And that came out as true. Consumers who drank more cocktails per week had higher price points than those who drank fewer. So looking at that willingness to purchase analysis, again, starting at the test point, there's a 7 percentage point difference between the two. Those who drink more, 19% said they would buy. Those who drink less, 12% said they would buy. Those who drink less declined quicker, but both are steep declines when prices increased. And you can see not so steep increases when prices decreased, just because of that, again, that vast difference we see between the medians and the tested price in the Van Westendorp. So those two are backing each other up. The information from the WTP is showing, consistent information with the Van Westendorp analysis. The range of acceptable prices for our people who drink more cocktails per week was a larger range. So it's a $100 range. It started at a higher price, ended at a higher price than those who drank less cocktails. The optimal price point was 105 for those who drink more and 85 for those who drink less cocktails. And you can see the differences in the medians table there on the left. And then looking at the other graph, again, slightly easier to intuit, at least for me. Just showing, you can see right off the bat some of the differences. They do start off at different points. One starts at 30, one starts at 40. Each are $10 increments, and definitely difference in their prices, easily seen. Okay, that is pretty much the information we give to our clients. We also, of course, include our demographic information for them to take a look at, just to give them ideas. They may want certain cuts based on demographics and things like that, which they may ask for after seeing this. So we always provide that information. And that's it. That's our best practices for Van Westendorp, and why we like it if we can't do a conjoint. Plus, it's just fun to say Van Westendorp. So there's that. Thanks for listening. Our contact info is here. That's my contact info, and as well as Accelerant's. If you have any questions, you can always contact us. I don't see if you have any. Let's see. I'm going to go through chat. Generally, Arlene asks, is Conjoint the first choice and then Van Westendorp the alternative when you can't do Conjoint? It depends. If Conjoint is not appropriate, Van Westendorp is our first one. It really depends on what information the client is seeking. If they want to look at trade-offs between different attributes and price, we're all Conjoint all the way. If they are looking at, a product that is new, that is, there's not a lot of attributes, there's not, that kind of thing, we prefer Van Westendorp. There are other pricing analyses out there, and different firms may use different analyses. We just happen to like Van Westendorp. Can you walk through how you identify the optimal price from the cumulative curves? Yeah. So once we have done and figured out the cumulative and inverted cumulative, we actually, you graph those, and the optimal price point is that point where too cheap and too expensive cross. And you see the approximate sign before the dollar because you're literally using that graph and approximating the price of where those two cross. Cindy asks, are the Conjoint and the Van Westendorp the two main methods? They are the two main methods we use. There are other methods of pricing like Arbor Granger and a few newer ones that I'm not as familiar with that absolutely you can use. And it all depends on what the client wants and you know, what's appropriate. My thoughts on Arbor Granger. Who's asking that? Let's see. Vanessa asks what my thoughts are on the Arbor Granger and when it should be used. I like Van Westendorp because of its simplicity. I think one of the best features of Van Westendorp is that it is much easier for the client to understand. It's much easier for us to present. It's much easier for them to socialize and actually use the analysis than Arbor Granger. Honestly, the only time I would like to use Arbor Granger is if the client asks for it. I just prefer Van Westendorp, hence he's my bestie. Stephen asks, do you approach B2B product services any differently to B2B? If so, what's your approach shift? You know, I think the biggest difference, at least for me, when looking at a B2B, is this information is going to be used by their sales team probably to talk to their customers, right? There's going to be probably a much more emphasis on socializing it in that respect. And the information is going to be used slightly different. In B2C, I'm using it to determine a price there. In B2B, I'm still determining the price, but it's the price that my customer is going to be selling to the consumer. So oftentimes I'm using this as information to show them you can increase the price. We've been charging this for, you know, we've been charging $20 for 20 years. And consumers, you know, recognize that inflation and other costs have gone up and they're actually willing to pay 35 or their price range is anywhere from 15 to 45, that kind of thing. So we present it differently because they're going to present it differently. So there is a bit of a shift there. Gail. Oh, thank you, Gail. She likes our alternative visual. I do too. I just find it much more easy. And my buddy Michael, is there an obvious scenario where you wouldn't want to consider using Van Westendorp when Conjoint is appropriate? Would probably be my answer there. So when, you know, we are looking at a given set of features, and each feature has, you know, enough different combinations that it's going to fit in a Conjoint and it's going to look good. I think, yes, absolutely. That's going to provide a much more realistic information. The end product is fun because the client themselves get to play with the price and kind of see how it would differ and the features and how the price would differ and things like that at the end. So yeah, when it's appropriate, that that's the gold standard. If you have any questions in the future, again, feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to share my thoughts. I'm an open book. Again, thank you. Thanks, Accelerant. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Sierra. Thanks, Maureen. I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate your questions. That's fantastic. And I hope you all have a great day.